Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to go over the assignment with you guys. In more than just a document, I wanted to explain things and just maybe go a little bit at length about how you may want to approach this. So I'll read the document, but you can obviously look at this as many times as you'd like and think about it. So for this assignment option, you're going to be given the 2018 AP Language and Composition Rhetorical Analysis prompt, along with the text. That link there will bring you to Madeline Albright's text speech at Mount Holyoke. And you're going to do this to practice looking for appeals, looking at the organization of a text, and looking at the surface features that'll help you develop your rhetorical analysis essay. If you focus on those 3 points with a solid soapstone kind of leading into the analysis of those 3 points, you should be good. You should be doing pretty well in this. The tricky part's going to be trying to do that within 45 minutes. So it's really important that this week, when you sit down to work on this, you really time yourself and be honest. It's important that you have that honest look at this point, so that you know what you need to, the areas where you may need to hurry up, go a little bit faster, and the areas you may want to develop a little bit more. The following is a list of steps I would consider taking. So these are some suggestions when approaching the rhetorical analysis prompt and the writing of your essay. You don't need to answer these for this assignment, just to be clear on that. These are things that you should be doing in your head, taking notations on your document. I mean, you're going to be at home for this, so you'll have access to pencil and paper if you want to jot things down on the side, but just know your time is limited. So you want to deconstruct the prompt. Now, before I even go any further than that, the word deconstruct, it's a very philosophically heavy word, but just take it as it is. Like in this case, you're taking apart the prompt, and when we go look at that prompt, it seems more complex than really what it is. Look for the verbs in the prompt. What's the prompt telling you to do? And what are the concepts that the prompt what concept or subject is the prompt attempting to force you to look at within that speech? So again, deconstruct that prompt, break it apart, look at the verbs, exactly what the verbs are telling you to do, and the subject matter of the prompt. And then you want to complete a soapstone. Now, though the document here is going to bring you that long list of questions that you're supposed to be thinking through regarding soapstone. So you want to make sure you go through each one of those elements and highlight the questions before you even look at writing your essay that you think are important, given the subject matter and what the prompt is telling you to do. So it's important to soapstone. So I would organize it where your first paragraph, introductory paragraph, is your soapstone. It's setting up the rhetorical situation, just establishing that the ins and outs. Who the speaker is, what the occasion, audience, purpose, and so forth and so on. That'd be my suggestion. And then use the next 3 paragraphs to delve into, as it says here, the appeals. And remember, when we're talking about appeals, we're not going to say that the author appeals to ethos or appeals to logos or appeals to pathos. You really want to talk around those things and say things like the author is, the speaker is engaging the audience with facts and statistics, leading them down a logical pathway, which would be, the author, in this case, appeals to logos, but without saying that. So you just want to be careful and just repeat and just stating that the ethos, logos, pathos. Again, use the definitions to describe those things, to describe how the speaker's doing those things or employing those tactics. Then you want to read the passage for the first time, determine the subject and purpose. Again, you should kind of already have an idea because you already got the prompt, but you want to see how the subject is played out and to what purpose. Why is Madeline Albright talking about what she's talking about in that given day? So think about the context. Remember the exigence, what leads someone to be put in that situation at that time. If you're not going to have the opportunity during the test, but you may want to look and see who is Madeline Albright. Why does she matter? And then think about that in the context of what the speech is saying. again here on point number two, make a note of each in the margin. Make a line between the paragraphs so you see a shift in the passage. If you have the availability, please, I would suggest printing out a copy of the speech and just going to town on it. Just write all over it. Leave your notes and practice doing that. Have that practice with your, the writing it out, the mechanics of it, and it'll help you internalize that as you go to take the exam in a few weeks. Again, make a line between the paragraphs so you see a shift in the passage. Then briefly make a note describing why the shift is made. So again, you want to have these conversations with yourself in the margins of this document to help develop your ideas around how the author looks toward the appeals, how the author is organizing the text, and then the surface features. The surface features are the diction, the syntax, the ways, the things that the strategies that the author uses to convey their meaning, their purpose in speaking that at that particular moment in time. And then explain those shifts. And in this speech, there are definitely some shifts that occur from paragraph to paragraph, or from section of the text. Number three, and here you have the prompt here at the bottom. So again, you can deconstructing that. It's telling you to write an essay that analyzes rhetorical choices. So clearly, it's a rhetorical analysis essay. You have who the speaker is, and the subject matters clearly here at the end that makes her convey her message that perseverance can make a difference. So write an essay, explain how perseverance can make a difference based on what Albright says. What are the rhetorical choices that she uses to convey this concept of perseverance having the ability to make a difference? Going back to the list up here, number three, you're going to read the passage a second time. Yes, this involves multiple readings if you really want to get this done right. You're never going to get everything the first time, second time, third time, and fourth, even the fourth time. For the sake of the essay, you're probably going to get done what you need to get done, but in terms of analysis, it's an exhaustive process. There is no X number of times that you need to complete it. It's until it's done. And even then, you can always return to a text and find things that you didn't find, or that's the beauty of text and human communication. Things change. The way we look at things changes over time. The same text can have a completely different feeling and tone if you read it out of context or at a different time period. It's going to, it's a living thing almost. So again, back to the passage. So you're going to read the passage a second time and place brackets around the sections where the speaker develops his or her own credibility, appeals to the audience's emotions, logic, and characters. Here's the appeals, right? This is the section where you would identify in the text the places where the author uses rhetorical appeals. Again, without actually using those expressions over and over again, talking around those definitions, much like number three does, right? You don't see here at all ethos, logos, or pathos, right? But you're hearing about appealing to an audience's emotions. So you want to use those words that kind of mean the same thing, but it just indicates that you know what those words mean instead of just using some vocabulary term. So again, three is important. So three, I would say, is directly related to that first bold point there in looking for the appeals. Four, read the passage a third time. You're going to make note of the organization. So what does the speaker do first? Second, how does she set it up? What does she talk about here and then talk about there? So it's important that you look for those transition points. Paragraphs are visual indicators of where there are transitions, but chunks of paragraphs can go together. So make sure you identify where there's a shift in the tone, in what the speech is about, in what the intentions are. Again, think about those things. And then five, you're going to read it again for a fourth time and annotate for the surface features. You're going to look for imagery, figurative language, syntax, diction, all those tools in the toolbox that add substance and add what's the word I'm looking for? Add variety to language, right? That really pull people in and captivate people. It's these things, right? The clear choices that are made to inspire, to again, to capture people's attention, to grab grab them for a moment and really pull them into what's being said. It's what great orators are able to do, right? They're able to use these tools to captivate audiences and get people to buy into what they're saying, into the rhetoric. So I hope this is helpful. Here's the essay. It was from a couple of years ago, the prompt that was put out there. Some things about this, just to make this a little bit easier for you so you don't have to go down a pathway of researching who Madeleine Albright was. She was Secretary of State under Bill Clinton in the 1990s. She, I believe, was the first female Secretary of State. I'm fairly certain that's the case. And she has an interesting background where either her family, they're Holocaust survivors that reestablished themselves in the United States. And, she's a product of a pretty successful immigration to the United States. So I hope that gives you some insights into what you need to be doing here. This is what I believe not what I believe, it's what we're being told your essay will be on. It will be the rhetorical analysis essay, which actually works out for us. You've probably done more of that than anything else. I would take this week, and honestly for you guys, if you are up to it and you really want to push yourselves, I'm not going to put it out as an assignment because then that would force all of you into completing the assignment, and it's not really a week that you're in academics. But I'm going to put out, let me put it this way: if I get enough interest, if I'll put out a survey, I'll put on the weekly survey. If you'd like another prompt next week, just to practice, we can absolutely do that. I can even put a list of the various prompts throughout the years, and you choose one. You can send them to me. I can give you some feedback on them. It's just a matter of, at this point, you're going to have to individually determine that you want that, given the circumstances. I don't know what you can all handle on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. So I'm going to stick to what the school's giving us in terms of a schedule for when we meet or when we have work assigned to you. But I will, again, gauging by your responses on the survey that I'll send out tomorrow or midweek, I will inquire about that if you're interested in having a little bit more outside of the scheduled academic times. Just to quickly look at make sure the soapstone document is here for you. Again, these are the things you definitely want to have in place when you're looking at establishing the rhetorical situation. These questions and having a good handle on these questions is definitely going to improve your chances of doing well. These are tried and true questions that help establish the rhetorical situation. And then just going through the document the way that we just discussed might be the most helpful. Another option would be to do left-right annotation, where you're kind of looking at the concepts on the left-hand side. Just, remember how we did this earlier in the year where you'd look at a text and you'd read through and you'd kind of get a sense of what the abstract concept, like justice or love or anything that any of these intangible things that you find in a text, you place those terms on the left-hand side, and then the right-hand side is where you tell me which strategy. Is it through diction, through the establishment of particular syntax, through using figurative language or imagery to help convey those concepts. So that way you're kind of doing both things at once. Again, I'll post these questions on the survey midweek to see if there's something that you'd like me to put out next week as an extra. Or you're going to be watching this video and thinking about what I'm talking about before or as we're speaking during our live session. So you're going to read through this stuff, and then I'll be in the live session during class today to answer your questions or anything that comes up. So I think I'll leave it at that for now, and then we'll let you guys pose your questions after.